बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। बहुत शुक्रिया तमाम अहबाब का डेवलपमेंट कम्युनिकेशंस नेटवर्क डेवकॉम पाकिस्तान की तरफ से वीकली वेबिनार पर मैं आपको खुशामदीद कहता हूँ। टुडे इज बेसिकली द री-लॉन्चिंग ऑफ Friends of China that we launched in 2011 with the first chair, Ambassador Senator Akram Zaki. And the basic aim of Friends of China 10 years back was to socially and culturally engage people from both countries, China and Pakistan, because at that time we had very little understanding of in terms of engagement, that how, because Chinese, as we know, they are very shy people. They really don't open very much, and they really don't interact because of the policies. Their like state policy is not very open to interact, because they feel like when they interact, they might have make any mistake, or that could harm their diplomacy, or that could be culturally sensitive to Pakistan, or they could be, because we are very a segregated society into different ideologies, different ethnic divides and cultural divides, and there were so many things that, and at that time we had already launched Pakistan Mountain Festival, National Women Network Festival, and so there were several other activities that we were on. And that was basically the beginning of Chinese interventions in Pakistan. So we wanted to have more close collaboration, because we believe that socially and culturally engaged nations can harness much better benefits that is mutually beneficial, and that is mutually very economically and culturally benefits societies. That was that. Now I thought once again, like then Senator Ambassador Akram Zaki Saab got sick. It was really over age basically, and then a prolonged illness, and then his death. May his soul rest in peace. And today we are launching again Friends of China with the same spirit and in the loving memory of Akram Zaki Saab. This is, and last year webinar that we organized, that was also on the same topic, where Hassan Daud Bhatt Saab, who is CEO of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment and Trade, very kindly mentioned about helping us, facilitating building relationships with like-minded organizations and cultural organizations there. What I would request to all the participants, please keep your mics mute. Otherwise, like, I have to remove you from the webinar. And especially like Muhammad Waqar Saab, I would request you not to unmute until you are asked to speak. So that is the basically crux of it. And I believe with this, we will be talking about more the mechanisms and the ways how we can go about it. In the last webinar, we agreed on a certain framework of content, and we believed in the synergy of organizations. We believed in the core group on culture. And now this may be, after this webinar, we might be having a little more sequenced and integrated way of proceeding further. So this is the basic. And we have speakers like Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab, founder of Joka and former MD PTV, Shiman Kirmani Saaba, He's a women and cultural activist and the founder of Tehreek-e-Niswan Cultural Group. She is from Karachi, and as I mentioned, Chief Executive Officer, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment and Trade, Hassan Daud Batsab. He's in Peshawar, and right at the moment after his deliberation to the webinar, he would be leaving to Islamabad. And then we have also invited Dr. Masood Ghani, line MJF Dr. Masood Ghani, who is District Governor-elect 305 and 2. And we also be having a collaboration with them for the entire district to engage lines into the interventions that we plan, and definitely district will also be part of the core group on culture. Just an hour back, I also spoke to Kamran Lashari Saab. He very kindly responded to our message, and I invited him to be part of the webinar as well. Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid Saab will be joining us about 2 p.m. Ambassador Nagmana Shafi, who has been posted to Beijing for years, and she has cultivated a wonderful relationship with China. She will also be joining us very soon. She has a misunderstanding that perhaps it is on 16th, because initially we mentioned about Sunday because of I thought would be third Eid day, but since we had the Eid a day before, as we were presuming, so I shifted back this webinar to Saturday. That is our basically official webinar day. So this is the situation, and then we will be having Riham Khan joining us from London. She is a political activist, commentator, and a broadcaster. She will also be joining us, and we will also having Zoon Ahmed Khan, journalist and broadcaster and cultural activist. Not culture, he's promoting culture in Beijing, and she is living over there, very well connected to different organizations, and she will also be joining us. So this is the format, and before I would request, basically, I had to open this webinar with the speech of the Ambassador Saiba, and she is on way back to home, and she will be joining us. And since Hassan Daud Batsab has to leave Peshawar for Islamabad, and she is to embark upon the journey, I would request him to be the opening batsman today and tell us where we left our intellectual brainstorming last time. We shall continue it from there, that how what could be the mechanisms and what could be the process of engaging like-minded organizations for social and cultural engagement, and how we can proceed on, and how it could be incorporated into the larger CPAC regime. Hassan Daud Batsab, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, Eid Mubarak to you and all those who are participating, listening. I think this webinar, again, as I said earlier, and this Friends of China discussion and forum, I think it's again happening at a crucial time, and why I say this, because as a former project director CPAC and had worked on it since its inception, we somehow forget the importance of people to people interaction, because if you even read the Belt and Road initiative and its pillars, and I was fortunate to attend both the Belt and Road forums, both in 2017 and 19, representing the government as a specialist. I realized the importance of people to people interaction and how countries were projecting their culture, and also discussion was based around that. And as a matter of principle also when projects happen and when government to government and engagements take place, it eventually results into people to people. So coming on to the topic of today's discussion on the China-Pakistan relationship and the 70 years of this unprecedented relationship, because no other countries, if you see uh, around the globe, you find, despite the cultural difference, despite the difference in governance structure and the way people live life, there's a great synergy between the two countries, and this has happened since the time leadership from both sides interacted and started to engage towards a Pak-China relationship, which is now transforming into economic partnership. I remember in 2013 when this all started, and perhaps Ma'am Nagmana would highlight this fact more, because she has been a great champion of promoting cultures from both sides. And I remember when she was an ambassador, I was working with her for having a Gandhara festival in Beijing, but then unfortunately COVID started, and we were ready to shift our some of the cultural relics to Beijing, have that event done in Tiananmen Square, and then later bring them back and generate interest in Pakistan, because in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we have the Buddha Trail, and a lot of Chinese have interest in visiting this area. And now with Rashakai and industrial cooperation, we'll see a lot of Chinese would be coming here. So I would like to highlight few things as we move forward in this relationship, because our leaders since late 50s till to date have actually contributed towards, and when I say leaders, it means not just the political leaders, I mean leadership at all level, at the government level, at private sector, and I think people like Ma'am Kirmani, who's here, and she's been a great proponent of bringing cultural relationships amongst nation together. So in 2013, there was again discussion, and if you look at the long-term plan of CPAC, because I was part of the committee which worked on the long-term plan. There is a complete chapter on people-to-people interaction and how tourism and culture will be promoted in both countries, and this would see a surge in number of visitors, not just in China, Pakistani visiting China, but also Chinese visiting Pakistan and having this interaction. And then again, later when we were working, and this would be perhaps be interesting for you all, when we were working on Gwadar Master Plan, I went with the team, work as a team member. We went to Shenzhen, and the aspect that we looked at was the fusion of Islamic culture with Chinese historic Confucius theories. And I also got the chance to visit Chifu, which is the birthplace of Confucius, just to understand how cultural aspect would be this. And when we were working on the long-term plan, we kept in mind that the historic and cultural aspect of Balochistan and also of Gwadar should be maintained in the law in the master plan. So what I would like to suggest, and a few recommendations, and we discussed about this in our last webinar also, is to actually have platforms like these. And just as a matter of discussion, I would like to highlight that in 2017 I arranged a belt and road, uh, and since I was the project director of CPEC then, with Dawn, we were able to have about 1 week festivity around the Belt and Road and the Silk Road in Karachi, and we organized a Chinese troupe, and then we also requested NCA to help us in this aspect, and that event went very well. Chinese ambassador, all the Chinese diplomats, Chinese working in CPEC and otherwise participated in that in Karachi, and that was a week long. activity Harun Saab helped us also in bringing, because he did his PhD on Chinese also. So I think we must now encourage more of such interactions. We must bring in platforms where people to people interaction and discussion amongst youngsters and not so young like me could be encouraged, so that we understand, because this partnership and this friendship is going to grow further. If you look at geopolitics and if you look at geoeconomics, both in that perspective, as a student, I would say this relationship is going to grow, and in order to further strengthen this to and you know uh, for the next generation to understand, both from both sides, we need to encourage such events. And when I was in Beijing, we used to visit certain markets, and people understood Pakistan very well. And here also, Chinese are taken as friends amongst all sphere of life. Uh, Lastly, I would again say that this is Munir Sahab, this is very important for people like us, getting together, promoting our culture, because China, when I was studying my PhD on cross cultural aspect within projects management, I understood that Chinese look at Pakistan as a stepping stone to the Muslim world, and they study Pakistan as as a as a ground where their learning curve could be improved in understanding the Muslim culture. So I think we should realize this fact. We should be proud of this fact and promote this more and more within the discussions that we have. I would also request Madam Nagmana, and I know my friend Zone is also there listening to me from Beijing. She's doing a good work with CGTN also. I think more television wise and other mediums like stage and theater should be promoted in both countries. India is doing a lot of work in China. I think it's time that Pakistan should do these activities more there on a regular frequency, and perhaps people like me who are working in the government can support this process. I know the current ambassador in Beijing is quite keen in promoting these activities. So soon after COVID, let's work on planning something, and then we will execute soon after COVID. This is all I have to say. Myself and my office are always available for anyone who is doing research on China and on CPAC. Uh, but please remember, the more, again, I would like to end on this, the most important aspect of China Pakistan Economic Corridor from its inception in 2013, on the first MOU, followed by the monographic study, then the long term plan, and then in the phase two, when more areas were introduced under the leadership of Prime Minister Imran Khan. Uh, Culture has always been, culture and people to people interaction has always been one of the key pillars of this relationship. So let's promote this further, and let's contribute for bringing the people of the two countries together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hassan Daud Bhatt Sahab, for your initial talk. And definitely, I hope you will be with us, even if you embark upon your journey to
Did you?
Islamabad.
I'm there. I'm there.
Sakib Rahim Sahab, we will take questions afterwards, not at the moment. And Hassan Daud Bhatt Sahab, thank you so much for your kind offer once again. Definitely, this is a step ahead, and we will definitely coming back to you for your support and others who can contribute to strengthen the such kind of initiatives. And now I would go to Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Sahab, founder of Joka Theatre and former MD PTV, for his deliberations that how these mechanisms should be developed, and what could be the sequence of activities to engage people, especially young people, as mentioned Hassan Daud Bhatt Sahab. Shahid Mahmood Nazim Sahab, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Munir, and thank you, Daud Batsap, for providing a very valuable perspective as someone who has been involved in the CPAC process from the beginning. So I understand that there is this awareness or this acceptance and this pride in Pak-China relationship among the people of Pakistan. But somehow it is sort of very, I won't say superficial, but very lopsided. We know China as a government. Sorry? Are you saying something?
No, 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 not to you, sir, not to you.
Okay. Sorry. So what I was saying was that we know Chinese government, and we have every day in the news that China has been so helpful politically, economically, recently about the vaccines, and people they admire the Chinese progress, phenomenal progress in all fields. But the Chinese people and the ancient and very rich cultural heritage, one of the most valuable heritage countries in the world. So I think very little is known about it. And then the common history. And when we come to Silk Road, then there's fascinating, unlimited number of stories and incidents and scholars which we share, people from South Asia, Central Asia, now in the area called Pakistan. And in my view, very little has been done to explore the cultural relationships and the common historical heritage, which can really give a stronger binding force to us than just the political and economic ties. Secondly, about the people of China, you have said that they are shy or they are very sensitive about relating to another country, people of another country, which is understandable. And I think that is one thing which separates the Americans from the Chinese, is that the Chinese, as far as I can see, they have not kind of imposed their point of view or their cultural or their art, but they just let things develop and ferment. Now, what to do to this, if the long-term plan actually has this cultural ties and people-to-people ties as an important factor, then I think more needs to be done, and it should be done as soon as possible, so that there is not a big divide or lag between the economic and political ties, which are prospering, with the people-to-people and cultural and artistic ties. So, so coming to some specific or concrete suggestions, I think China is obviously a very ancient country, and China is a very big country, region-wise, population-wise, ethnic stories, ethnic backgrounds. So we can, I mean, we can't embrace China as a whole immediately. So we have to explore, experience, understand China according to the regions, and also according to the areas of people-to-people friendship, like art is one, and business, where I think some progress has been made, and then youth and education, media, they are all very important areas in which we can develop our people-to-people and sector-based relationships. So we can have committees which, after having an overall core group or supervisory cultural cooperation committee from both countries, then we can have focused subcommittees or separate working groups which can explore relationship at the level of theater, for example. China has a very rich and very ancient and dynamic and quite unique kind of theater, which we can learn from. And obviously, we also have a rich theater tradition. Film is very important because Chinese films are, again, very different and very special. The progress of Chinese cinema, the different generations of filmmakers. So there have been some initiative to have Chinese film festivals, but very limited. Then youth is, as I said, is a very important field, and youth to youth, children to children relationship, not like touring and having exposure to the other side, as well as working together on various projects. And one important area where I think a lot needs to be done is including not just the Chinese language, but Chinese culture, Chinese arts, Chinese crafts into our curriculum. Like I teach at the international, the Institute of Art and Culture in Lahore, and we tried to, and I lead the film and television program, and we tried to approach the Chinese film industry directly as through universities, and there has been some progress, but very slow, and through the embassy also. So like we wanted to have a festival for our film students, Festival of Chinese Film, having some Chinese scholars, film scholars and directors come and talk about their experience. And this could be a fascinating experience for our students. And similarly, music, I think very little is known about Chinese music and interaction, apart from some Chinese artists coming and singing in Urdu or any other Pakistani language. But exploring the musical traditions, that is also one area in which a lot can be done. Similarly, like archaeology and renovation of the old monuments and archaeological heritage, I think there China has a huge experience from which we can learn. And right now, we only have the Western experts coming from Norway or from US or from Hungary to restore paintings and work on the restoration. But I think what I have seen in China, the kind of ancient cultural heritage and the way they have been restored, I think a lot can be gained from there. And then also that relationship is two-way. So what we have to offer, apart from whatever, obviously we are a much smaller country than China, and maybe in historical terms, maybe the canvas is not as big, but still we have a rich heritage and we have things to offer if we ourselves accept our own cultural heritage, which is not just a door to Muslim world, but pre-Islamic cultural heritage, the Buddhist heritage, the Hindu heritage, or like Mohenjo-daro or Harappa, Indus Valley, Gandhara. So all these areas in our periods in our history, we have a lot of valuable insight and sharing to offer. And similarly, from the Chinese side, obviously, there is a huge amount of information and material where we can help each other. So I would say that one area from where we can start, which has been mentioned by Bhatt Sahab also, is the Silk Road. And because Silk Road is not just a road, it's not just an economic link or a historical link, but it's a cultural link which overlaps, and both the South Asian or Muslim or Pakistani side has its own stories and its own valuable information to share, and from the other side, the Chinese side also. So this Silk Road actually also is a moving concept, because it's a road, it's a journey, and it's not like a museum or an archaeological site. So there we can have events, we can have stories from the old Silk Road times, and that is one area where the cultural interaction can, I think it can, this could be the first step towards a much greater collaboration. So these are some just basic ideas which have come to my mind. But basically, I think it has to be coordinated, and it has to be obviously supported by the government from both sides, but it has to be led by the practitioners who have a stake and who have an expertise, and so that we can immediately make up the lost time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahid Mahmood Nazim Saab, for your wonderful suggestions. Definitely, this kind of collaboration shall start with the leadership of civil society organizations and practitioners, basically, those who know such kind of the subjects much better way. And this is really wonderful idea to start with the Silk Road stories, basically. And definitely both sides have stories when the project was initiated, and that could be an insight and basically tracing out the past friendship to the present day friendship and collaboration. Good idea. Definitely, we can develop a concept on it, and having the good connection with the cultural organizations of China, and having CEO Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment and Trade, Hassan Daud Bhatt Saab, who was the first project director of CPAC, and with his supervision and leadership, different CPAC components were developed, and long-term planning was made. And definitely he is more than willing to initiate and support such kind of initiatives. Thank you so much, Shahid Nadeem Sab. Now I would like to move on to Shima Kirmani Saba, who is a wonderful culture performer, a cultural activist, women activist, and founder of Tehreek-e-Niswan Cultural Group. And we have seen her, taking the right-based approaches through cultural performances, creating awareness, and putting advocacy on the main as main thrust. Shima Kirmani Sabha, would you please take up and unmute your mic, and please go ahead. And meanwhile, I would like to thank you, Line MJF, Dr. Masood Ghani Saab, District Governor-elect, for joining us. And thank you so much, Zoon Ahmed Khan, from joining us from Beijing. And I also appreciate joining us, Tara Beg. She is creative director with Devcom Pakistan. She spare time, and she is one of the leading art and design instructors and mentors in Islamabad, teaching Cambridge students. And Samra Khalisaba, thank you so much for joining. And Dr. Ephraim Satisab, thank you so much for joining. Zarmina Khan, thank you so much. And we also have another friend, Bhutta Saab, thank you so much. Please go ahead, Shima Kirmani Saba.
Yeah, so thank you, Munir Saab, for having me on this interesting panel. I think it's a very important discussion that we are having. And thank you all the people who are there. I think there's so many interesting personalities here. So I will start off by saying, reiterating the fact that it is culture that brings people together, whether it is happening nationally or internally, or whether it is happening on a larger scale in an international or global way. So definitely it goes beyond borders, it goes beyond religions, it goes beyond geographical boundaries, and it goes beyond divided histories. But at the same time, before I start, I would like to say that I want to state that whatever discussion that we have on bringing the people of China, the cultures of China and Pakistan together at whatever level, I think the most important thing in this aspect would be to make sure that it is based on an equal relationship. Because I am very scared of the cultural hegemony that China can take over and dominate a culture in Pakistan, because Pakistan itself is so confused about its own cultural heritage, even though, as we all know, it is a hugely rich cultural heritage, but there are so many issues and so many problems in it about acknowledging that very heritage also. I mean, 70 years we've been still trying to define what is Pakistani culture, whether it is this or whether it is that, whether we own this, whether we disown that. So I am a little weary about actually just without thinking of these things, taking these steps forward and making exchanges with other countries, because I think we still haven't sorted out our own cultural policies in Pakistan. Having said that, so that's my first point, that we need to be very secure in our cultural policy, secure in our understanding of what is our identity, what is our cultural identity, what is our historical identity, where do we come from, who are we, where are we going? I do not want to start learning Chinese language, but I fear at the moment this kind of domination is taking over our country, and I mean, I oppose it, and I am not happy about that. I feel that cultural diplomacy has to be at an equal level between two countries. So that's the first thing I'd like to share with all those who are here. I'm sure many people will not agree with me, but that's my point of view. And I've always been a little different, but I would like to state that. Because I think culture does define us. Culture does help us find our identities. And that is, and so when we are moving towards cooperation and collaboration with other cultures, then, and if we are not secure and grounded and rooted in our own identity and our own cultural background, तो ज़रा मुश्किल हो जाता है. Anyway, having said that, I think we can recurate our cultures to challenge ourselves. Then we can create interesting artistic communities within ourselves, within the country, nationally, and in the larger global or international sense. Because, you know, identities are empowered by culture, and communities are empowered by culture. So let's be very sure that we are totally empowered and rooted in our identities and our culture before we start talking with others. And I think to wind up this thought, I would say that the hope for the future is to be found in understanding and acknowledging the past and the history, and learning and keeping certain traditions alive. So with the two countries of, because when I talk about Pakistan, I look at it in a larger South Asian context. And in the South Asian context, I think we are very rich culturally. And so is China. Both the civilizations are extremely important civilizations, extremely important cultural traditions, artistic traditions, customs, etc., etc. And if we can start working to weave a tapestry together, I think it will be brilliant. But with our South Asian identity, which includes what is now Bangladesh, which includes Bhutan, which includes India, which includes Nepal, Sri Lanka, and I would include in it Afghanistan, I would include in it Maldives. And I would also want to say that we have to be very clear that we are not defining ourselves as religious communities. We are defining ourselves as a very pluralistic society. And then we can move forward. And I recently, I just also want to share that recently I've finished my MPhil and I'm working on my doctorate. So that is on cultural identity of the search for the new cultural identity of Pakistan. And I wrote a paper on this whole area, which is known as Gandhara. I mean, because it is so related to China, I mean, I feel that this is so interesting work that we can do with Chinese artists and ourselves, you know, especially after seeing what happened to the Buddhist statues in Afghanistan, the Bamiyan statues. It's very important to find, which is what I tried to do in my paper, to locate and find Gandhara artwork in areas in Sawat and, you know, the whole area that is known as the Gandhara civilization, where dance and music and theater is represented on reliefs, in sculpture, in paintings, and it is so much there. So, I mean, you know, that is one chain that we can start linking up on. And the actual logistical or the strategy, so all this is kind of the strategy, but the logistics of it can be, I mean, if you're looking at in more tangible senses, that when I was studying dance in India, I had 3 Chinese girls, 2 Chinese and 1 Chinese man learning Indian classical dance and music there with me. And they take it back, and because I've been associating with them, corresponding with them, what is very interesting what China is it learns different forms. It sends its younger generation to learn different art forms, bring it back, and then they try to interweave it into their own tradition. And I think that is what is brilliant, what I would like to see happening, that young people, artists, or even mature people, artists basically, from Pakistan, learn the various art forms from China, bring those art forms back, put them into our own cultural scenario, create our own story using those forms. So you're enhancing and trying to create your own expands and canvas of your culture, you know. And I think that can be very interesting, because I mean that there is still this fight and this argument, what is classical dance in Pakistan, what is classical music of, so I mean, you know, these things evolve. And so if we can learn the different forms and bring them back and weave them into whatever we have here, I think very interesting things can start happening. I don't know, whole dynamic process can start taking place with joint and maybe joint productions with local artists and Chinese artists, with stories that people here can connect to, but not just showcase Pakistani folk dance in China, Chinese folk dance in Pakistan. I think we are tired of that, and we've seen enough of that. 70 years we've been just seeing that, right? I mean, China se troupes aate hain, and they do their various Chinese dances, and we go. I mean, I myself have gone many times to China on cultural tours and taken our folk dances, taking our classical, taking one's own work. So I think we need to now move beyond just showcasing each other. We need to start learning from each other. And I mean, like, I'm very interested in seeing, I mean, Chinese are so advanced in design, the operatic design of things. And I've seen so many productions, like, for instance, I think what we can learn from them is, the kind of work that was produced. I mean, it's not being produced now, but the kind of work that was produced just after the Cultural Revolution in China, where dance, music, theater, opera was an alternative method to not just raise awareness, but to educate the people. So you had, and I mean, I'd love to work on something like that. That we are doing a dance drama and motivating people, educate your girls, let them go to school, something like that. So it becomes a very important aspect of culture. Acrobats, they're so brilliant in acrobats. I mean, we don't have anything in Pakistan, though when I was growing up, and I remember going to a circus here and seeing the trapeze artists, and that has died down. We can revive that by learning from Chinese artists, these kind of things. So I think there's a lot of exchange that can start happening. And that is what I am interested in. And that's what I would like to see, the direction that we can take through this kind of a platform. And I think that will help our own culture to move forward and become stronger and more secure in its understanding and in its manifestation itself. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shima Kirmani Saba, for your wonderful thoughts on how cultural collaboration can improve, aesthetics and engagement both sides. Thank you very much. And let me share with you, like 2-3 years back, China Cultural Center started fusion sort of things with Pakistani musicians and Chinese musicians. They had a couple of workshops to synchronize both instrumental instrumental compositions and I had seen a couple of things, but it was not continued. And I think after this COVID is over, we can also put up this with the Chinese government and the Pakistani government as to put up certain such kind of initiatives that could lead more sort of fusion and valuable work than only showcasing, because over the decades we have seen only performances. But this time, as you have suggested, and Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab has also suggested that we should have some concrete cultural products that could identify cultures and enhance both sides of culture. Yes, please, Shima Kirmani, would you like to say something more?
Just one more sentence I wanted to add to this, and that is that, I mean, maybe you, from this platform, you can suggest, I mean, right now we're talking about people to people, but from this platform, that it can be a two-pronged way. Like the gentleman who spoke first, he actually touched on it, that it can be a two-pronged approach. One is a people-to-people approach, and the other is a government-to-government approach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now, in the government-to-government approach, what you can try and suggest is which actually was Pakistan had tried with India when Benazir Bhutto had come into power. In fact, I was one of the sole benefactors of that cultural exchange policy, where some artists, aspiring artists, were coming from India to Pakistan to learn some folk arts, and some were going from here to India to learn. So I went on that program, a cultural policy of exchange for students to learn further in the different cultures. So, I mean, I think that can be suggested at a government-to-government level, because that can only happen in that government-to-government way. So just keep that in mind, that we should keep the two-pronged approach in this whole thing.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Shima Kirmani Saba. Please stay with us. Like afterwards, we will be having question and answer session as well. And thank you so much, Riham Khan Saiba, for joining. She is a political commentator and broadcaster from London and very well known. And she is also doing wonderful work for the empowerment and protection and education of street children. Riham Khan Sahaba, thank you. We welcome you, and please go ahead about. Hope you have listened to Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Sahab and Shima Kirmani Sahaba. They have suggested multi-tier interventions where the culture shall not be only the showcase of performances, but more sort of fusion of cultures and learning from each other. How do you think, like China, Pakistan, and as Shima Kirmani Sahaba suggested, it should go beyond the geographical boundaries, like to other countries in the region as well? How do you see the perspective of cultural collaboration and coming together for fusion and such kind of interventions? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ji. Assalamu alaikum to all of you, and apologies, but it's a time zone difference. And what a delightful start to my Saturday morning, listening and watching the legend Shima Kirmani Sahiba, and a little unknown fact that as a youngster, I was enraptured by her performances sitting in Peshawar, and from a very, very different sort of background. I just was a huge fan, and we didn't really get to see her, of course, performing live, but I've been stalking her career for a very long time. So absolutely delightful to see her this morning. It's brightened my day. And you see, that's one of the things which I think as a child raised in Peshawar in the Zia era, we were very limited. And I can so relate to, I was chuckling to myself when Shima ji said about, these troupes that we've seen from China, and, we've seen them. And I think I've grown up with them and thinking, is there more that we can offer? And as an artist, aspiring artist myself, as a filmmaker, I just found that why are we so limited with our culture also? Not only what we see when the Chinese troupes came in, but also our this thing of putting our children in these shiny mirrored waistcoats and limiting our diversity to that very restrictive border was annoying to me. You've seen it once, you want to see something more, something different. As an adult, as pretending to be an adult, I think I'm just a kid exploring things that fascinate me. Art, of course, fascinates me. Culture is fascinating to me. My first sort of education into different cultures or diversity of culture in Pakistan was when I started working as a journalist in Pakistan. And I got very bored with the studio setup. And what I really enjoyed was going to places like Thar and Nagar Parkar, and, the culture and art and music, which was completely different to the offering in the then Suba Sarhad and the now Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And that to me is the beauty of the world that we live in. I mean, today, as we connect on Zoom, we are sitting in different places in different time zones, and that's very much the reality that we're looking at. The future is going to be like that. So I completely relate to this idea that we shouldn't be restricted by geographical borders. Our children are not. Coming back to the topic today, I feel that identity is fluid anyway. 73 years ago, we were not Pakistani. So we have become Pakistani, and we are still struggling with our identity. I feel that we do have an identity crisis in different pockets of Pakistan, and regardless of whatever mindset you belong to, whether you're right wing or you're left wing, or I don't know whether there are any leftists left in Pakistan, but certainly art struggles. And for me, when I made my first feature film, the idea was to actually promote something very locally. So as a lot of people who belong to the film and music industry in Pakistan, they will relate and understand that much of it is now focused in Karachi, because we have more skilled manpower there. We have more organizational ability there. So we have a lot of the drama production, or even now many of the film productions, and the song. It seems like art has been limited to a very select community, even within Karachi. So when I made the film Janan, the idea was not only to promote a Pakistani story, a story that is very true to what we experience in our lives, a lived in experience of Pakistan, not something that you hear the Americans writing about us or the Indians writing about us. Pakistan has evolved. So I had a problem with the depiction of characters in Indian films, Pakistani characters in Indian films, Pakistani characters in series like Homeland, for example. To us, of course, Peshawar, Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore, and even Banur are not like that. So I wanted to depict that, but also I wanted to promote regional actors, producers, writers, and promote a culture of picking up skills. One of the biggest advantages I see with the One Belt, One Road is that China has its own, has their own direction economically, and how they want to connect from Pakistan to Middle East, from Kyrgyzstan to Kazakhstan, from Sri Lanka to Africa. And so they want to connect China economically. They have a target, very clear target. What Pakistan can help them with, and what I think I would be looking for, is building infrastructure, joint collaborations where we can learn from they have a really brilliant film academy in Beijing. And I think that the support that our industry does not get by the government or even by private investors, finance is a huge issue. Infrastructure, I mean, we don't have a film city, we don't have studios, we don't have equipment. We need a turnkey solution in different provinces of Pakistan, and we need to promote particularly females, women writers, and women directors, and women producers. But I think that collaboration could work, where we are producing and writing extremely good content. Of course, because I'm a filmmaker, I'm talking about that, but that's not limited to it. So music and dance also. But I think that collaboration could work. And how would it benefit China? It would benefit China by actually investing into areas which are traditionally associated as soft image. So I think that there's a lot to learn about China also. And it could, I don't know if people remember, but I remember ironically, in the Zia era, we had this Pak-China friendship, and I don't know if the listeners and the viewers today can recall that we used to sell ideas of like a film collaboration with Pakistan and Chinese actors at the time, and I think we did have one attempt at it, and I don't see why we should not be promoting more of that. But completely, I think that where China needs to sell its cultural diversity and the fact that we do have a very, particularly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, you see, I was born, or my family is from the Silk Route traditionally, now the One Belt, One Road, CPEC. So for us, the Chinese influence in our culture, I'm from Baffa and Swati origin. So for us, it's something that is part of our, it's historically, and for centuries, we've had very close connections because of the proximity geographically. So I think that we, places like Chilas, or places like Baffa and Shinkiari and Thakot, we have an overlap of civilization which dates back to the 7th century. So the Silk Route areas, I think we need to perhaps promote that, the Chinese culture that has been coming into our provinces, and our culture, the transition from Persia, Iran, and then into what is now Pakistan, into China. And that connection, I think, is a very romantic idea to me. I've always wanted to travel since I was 8 years old, and I had this fascination. But equally, I completely endorse what Shimaji has said. We should never compromise our own culture for assimilation into another culture. I think what is very important as an artist and to celebrate diversity is that while identity is fluid and there's no harm in accepting certain things from other cultures, but you don't have to let go. I'm not a fan of uniformity, whether it's the American style of uniformity or whether it's the Pakistan enforced uniformity. Also, I believe in celebrating regional languages, Pashto, Sindhi, Brahui, and I believe in promoting diversity. And I say that with a commercial angle. So it's not only about the fact that you're proud of your heritage and you're proud of your culture, but it's also because our children now who are connected with, say, Netflix, for example, or other digital platforms, I see them watching out content which is in languages which they're not familiar with, and they don't have the concept of watching a series dubbed into English. They follow Korean shows, they follow Spanish shows, they follow them in the languages, and they pick up the culture, and they're very now culturally sensitive. So I think that we live in the era of possibility where we should be able to produce a content in Pashto or Sindhi or a Chinese regional language. We should just offer our creative abilities. We have certain limitations. As I said, the industry is not supported financially by the government or even culturally. The reason I was never got to see Shimaji's live performance, or what I would have liked to learn actually dance, was because in my family setup, that was a no-no. So I would have loved to learn the sitar and classical dance, but that was completely, it wasn't sort of allowed in the conservative setup. But people do what they want to do, and they break the barriers. So I think that we could offer to China. I think with particularly the negative press China is getting, they should really be embracing our cooperation and help, because there's a lot of bad press for China and One Belt, One Road, particularly with the idea that Muslims are being mistreated in China. And there is a beautiful tradition about Islam in China. One of the things that I really want to go and travel and document are the mosques in China, because I'm a student of architecture and I really like that. That is something that the world has not seen. I have very close friends who belong to certain regions in China, and the architecture of the mosques and the fact that Islam has been in China since pretty much the 8th century. Even earlier there was trade, and so I find that reigniting that old romanticism but presenting it as new content would be something that my kids would want to watch. It has to be interesting. It has to be, it has to have energy. It can't be one of these, positive sort of journalism or positive reporting kind of restrictions, because I think that people, if you honestly report or document or write how people genuinely are, that is the best positivity. And we can show our drawbacks and our flaws, because our vulnerabilities and our flaws, our imperfections make us beautiful. And so there is no reason to sort of, completely gloss over and put everything as shiny. I think just showing people the way they are would be the best press, the best way forward. And finally, one of the things which again is related to the digital platforms is that I've raised my children here in the UK. They're British born, and I wasn't born in Pakistan. But culture, our traditions, whether they're Pashtun traditions or Pakistani traditions or Muslim traditions, I have never forced this down my children's throats. I've never said Urdu bolo, don't speak in English, don't have white friends, don't have, this is un-Islamic, this is non-Pakistani, this is not from Southeast Asia. And I see that as a huge success, because I have a huge fascination with classical music, Indian classical music, with the Pashtun traditions, the language, but I never enforced that on my children. I never even encouraged them. But as a child, I was encouraged to learn Saraiki and Sufyana Kalam by my mom, who was obviously not Saraiki speaking. And in my home, there has been an environment where I like certain things. And now I look at my 18-year-old and she wants me to sing Daag Dehlvi. I have no idea where she's picked it up from. I've never said to her, you should read Urdu ghazal or learn. So I think that if you present things in a gentle, genuinely interesting fashion, and you are enthusiastic about something, the children and the population picks it up. So I don't sell my Pakistanism or my being Muslim origin or Pashtunism. I don't forcefully sell it. I don't do it to my neighbors who are all white. I don't do it to my children. And I think that's why people are interested. They're fascinated. They want to know what I'm eating. And because I love my culture, I love my roots. And every time I wear something which is very core Southeast Asian, the people who are there will notice, and they'll ask me about my material. What are you wearing? And then I will tell them that, I'm wearing this chiffon because my mom left this sadechar mom ka dupatta, or like khadar, this is Indian khadar. And I do that because for me, it is a political statement, but at the same time, I'm genuinely very, very enthusiastic about our culture. And I want to learn the story behind the batik print or the ajrak print, or why our chadars are a certain color. And when you have that enthusiasm and you sell it enthusiastically, people just lap it up. And I think that is a big lesson that we can, so I don't think we should be very nervous. I don't think culture and diversity is ever going to die out. I think that it's alive and kicking. And certainly with these digital platforms and the fact that COVID has been a huge help because we're connecting to so many people, it's actually very possible to be positive and to be optimistic about the future. So I hope that we do have some collaborations where we can financially invest in Pakistani productions, in Pakistani improvement of skill set. I hope at some point the PTV Academy is revived in its true sense. I won't hold my breath with that, but certainly I think a development of a film city or a culture city is something that is very, very important to do. And the fact now that politically we have a very clear line where peace is being promoted, things that we have been saying for God knows how many decades, now officially the stance is, we must be friends. We must be friends with India. We must be friends with Afghanistan. And of course, we have to be friends with China. So I think that this is perhaps the best, a golden opportunity that me and Shima ji and everyone else who is passionate about art should just grab it up right now. And hopefully I can include Shima ji in one of our documentaries that I'm planning soon. That's me done.
Sure, I would love it. I would love it. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you very
so
much.
Beautiful,
and
mashallah. I wasn't.
So Rehem, I've
looking
sent you my email address. If you look up the
Okay.
chat, so please connect with me.
I will do. If you show me a
certain,
certain, if you teach me a certain, certain moves as well. Perhaps I'm too old and
Good.
too inflexible,
No.
maybe. But I would love.
Nobody is ever too old. Nobody is ever too old.
I mean,
Achha, that's great.
That's
great.
we should
That's
collaborate.
Great.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you very much, Rihan Khan Sahib, for wonderful suggestions. And definitely they would be incorporated into the framework that would be putting up. And you talked about right wing and left wing. Basically, these wings have clipped our wings. And we need some more wings to fly on new horizons. And I hope, like with this new
I
way
hope
of
that we have a wing of sense and sensibility, a middle wing of sort of, and I find that, we had a problem with the right wing, and we have a right wing ruling everywhere in the world. All the rulers seem to be extreme right wing. But I'm sorry, but the extreme left is also quite non-liberal. So I think let's I'm one for peace and harmony, and that's what Southeast Asia is all about. Actually, we like to live in harmony. We like to cook up a day and invite everyone, and so come and join us and join the song and dance. So I'm very hopeful that would be the way, the middle, sensible, sane, let live route for everyone.
Yeah. Ramhan, that's what I said. Like the right wing and the left wing has basically clipped all the wings that we had, and we need new wings to fly on the new shade horizons, basically. And thank you so much. And definitely the kind of suggestions you put up would define our future interaction and collaboration. I could see Zoom Ahmed Khan from Beijing. Yeah, she's there. Zoom, are you there? Zoom.
I am here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we zoom in to Zoom Ahmed Khan, and she is a wonderful broadcaster and promoting culture for years in Beijing, and a very good bridge for Pakistanis and Pakistani culture and point of view. Zoom, please take up mic and go ahead. And you have listened to different personalities, and they have spoken. And how, while sitting in Beijing, what do you think? Like how Beijing and the cultural organizations and the social and the people organizations over there can contribute and how they should be approached for a collective collaboration on the initiatives that we are talking about. Please go ahead, Zoom.
Okay. Thank you so much, Munir Saab, first of all. I'm amazed to be on a panel with such known, wonderful, and very personalities that we've looked up to. So thank you for including me in this panel. I will give a bit of an introduction about myself. I'm basically an international relations scholar. I've been in Beijing for almost 6 years now, and my focus is Chinese foreign policy. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So that's another multilateral forum, multilateral initiative that I focus on. And I think for these past 6 years, when as someone I often go to comment on Chinese media, but it's not just about politics or diplomacy, but a lot of times the topics come together. We talk about youth, culture, education, soft image. And when you spend 6 years in a country, I think you end up internalizing the way they think as well. So I'll try my best in a nutshell. I think some things came up over here, which I also have a perspective on. For instance, the idea of the kind of cultural collaborations that we should be focusing on, the concept of even the language, for instance. I think I don't disagree with the idea that it shouldn't be unilateral. I think definitely language learning, understanding each other's culture should be something on an equal level, on an equal footing. And personally, I see that happening to a great extent. So maybe number one, I would like to talk about the fact that youth, when we talk about cultural cooperation, when we talk about CPEC, or we talk about any kind of meaningful cooperation, I feel like the government to government, the business to business, and the P2B are not three different aspects, actually. They connect very well together. So for instance, when we talk about the SCO, which includes Pakistan and India and Central Asian countries and Russia and China, I think in that organization, the focus is heavily on youth. So whether they're talking about security, they're talking about the economy, they talk about cultural collaboration, in the end, the focus is on how to invest in our young people, because they're not, and when we talk about youth, we're talking about people under 35 years of age. So I feel like in between Pakistan-China relations, we do have a basic understanding, a basic consciousness about how important this demographic is for both countries, and more significantly for Pakistan, because Pakistan is one of the youngest. Pakistan is the youngest member of the SCO, and Pakistan is definitely much younger as a country compared to China. And the other thing is that our biggest asset right now, when we talk about CPEC cooperation, is young people. More than 30,000 Pakistani students are receiving very good quality education in China. They are inadvertently the cultural ambassadors of Pakistan in a country that matters a lot. And when we talk about China, we're talking about a country that the world is engaging. So in this kind of an environment, the level of knowledge that our young people have about our culture is, for instance, very important. So one of the things I'd like to point out, being here, constantly engaging young people, students, I work closely with student organizations here, and I think I'm constantly responding to questions people have as well. But one thing that I feel we can work on as a country, we talk about our cultural identity, our historic heritage, and I think we all acknowledge that as a country, we have been through a phase where we've tried to make the identity of Pakistan very uniform. And that it came up, I think Ms. Khan, Mr. Ham Khan also just talked about it. You can't do that to a country. We are a diverse country. We are a diverse people with many languages. We have so many forms of art that are innately part of our DNA. We have so much that we can boast. So I think as young people representing Pakistan in China, they should also have so much awareness about Pakistan's history. And I think this is something that we need to package in a good way. So we can make films the way the Chinese people, Ms. Karmani, I think, talked about this, how they've used dances, culture, very attractive ways to educate their people. And I feel like this is something that we definitely are not doing on the same scale. I think in Pakistan, the problem is that we don't see culture as a very tangible industry in a way to promote ourselves, to promote our businesses, to promote our values and to promote a civic sense among people as well, and to educate our people. So here, I think collaboration and actually studying the Chinese model, the way they've achieved that, can be very beneficial. And having a young people that are more educated, able to explain and express the uniqueness of their culture, and do it in a way that's confident, do it in a way that they're also learning from the Chinese, but also imparting some of their own. I think that's something we can do much better at. Another thing came up, film collaborations. So actually, I think because I'm here since 2015, and 2015 was that year when those projects really got solidified. And by 2017, 18, we are talking increasingly about the cultural dimension. So since then, I've met many people, many filmmakers in China that are deeply interested in collaborating with Pakistani partners and vice versa. I think it's the kind of investment that our industry needs a lot. We have the Rafi Group represented here. So they just had an event a few months ago in Beijing that was about a collaboration between Chinese theater industry and the Rafi Group. And this kind of cooperation can really help boost Pakistan's industry, entertainment industry, cultural industry, a boost that we need. I think we do need resources, and we must acknowledge that China has achieved a lot in this affair. So this kind of soft collaboration will not only promote the cultural image, the soft image of Pakistan even more, because obviously Chinese people have a very unique sentiment towards Pakistanis. I think, I don't know, those of you who've been to China would know that just randomly on the road, if you tell them you're a Pakistani, they have a really different reaction. But that said, they don't have as much knowledge about Pakistani culture as even today they would have about other South Asian countries, especially India, for instance. And I think that's a real pity, because we as a country, we have a policy of promoting our culture, but we still, I think we need to have a better strategy. And right now with the Chinese motivation to push this industry forward in Pakistan, I think it's really a good time for us to work better on these sectors. Then we had a film, a Pakistani movie was also in Chinese cinemas. That was the first time in 40 years that a Pakistani film was watched in key Chinese cinemas. But that said, I think we should be able to do much more of that, and we need to be able to showcase what Pakistan can offer in a better way. So on that end, one of the things that came up about that film was that it showcased Pakistan's northern areas, the natural scenery, natural beauty, and that can be a unique selling point for Pakistanis to collaborate, to attract investment in this industry. Another industry that's really important for China right now is obviously tourism. And on that, I feel like we still need to work. Obviously, right now it's COVID. So I think even though the kind of boost in cooperation, the kind of boost in people-to-people exchanges and in business, in investments that we were hoping for, that's taken a hit. But this is still very good time to plan and coordinate. And for Pakistan, 2 years ago, I remember the key conversations. I also host a program focused on China-Pakistan. So we always did a segment on culture. And we were trying to bring stories about some successes in the sector and what really Pakistanis need to do to understand how to attract the Chinese tourists. This is something that we can continue to talk about, continue to hold events on. So I think, for example, Mr. Munir, maybe this is a good topic to have some Chinese people and Pakistanis together from this industry and talk about in a year or two, what should we have done to be able to boost the tourism sector in Pakistan? So that's another aspect. And I think another, when we talk about 70 years, we talk about youth, we're talking about culture. Another thing is like how we need to make sure that this situation that we find ourselves in truly becomes an equalizer. And here, I think we do have that unique opportunity today to be able to engage people from different parts of Pakistan, from different parts of China, and have a conversation with them. Their geographical, where they are, whether they're in an accessible situation or not, it's become irrelevant, it's become immaterial. So this is a very unique opportunity to engage more people in needed dialogue. And I feel like this is something that I mentioned a few days ago at the PCI event as well, which is about youth engagement. And I think this is something that you are doing. This kind of webinars, we are people in different continents, and we are able to have a conversation as if it's face to face. So to make sure that we are engaging more young people in this conversation is extremely important. And personally, I've talked about the SEO a few times. I'll bring it up again. One of the things that I'm deeply involved in is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization talks about the Shanghai spirit. And the concept is that we as a region, our existence is essentially shared. Our economies, they prosper and they also perish together to a great extent. Stability, everything is interconnected. We have a very symbiotic relationship. And to be able to take that concept and actually push young people to believe that they exist in this reality is something that is constant work. So one of the things we do for the SEO community is organize events. There's an organization called Scholar. We engage young people, we engage professionals, and we host many events, different activities that engage people from this region, talk about the potentials in terms of economy, digitalization, cultural opportunities, educate each other about each other's culture, and just investing in that knowledge, in helping people realize that they don't always need to look at Western countries or countries in other regions, but there's so much more untapped potential within this region. I think that has helped a lot of people, thousands of people in the SEO space, to be able to look for opportunities and boost that sense of have more educated cultural, the idea that we have so much shared history, invest in cultural activities, learn about each other. And I think this is exactly what we need to do between China and Pakistan. We have many events. CPEC, China-Pakistan Cooperation, has become an example. We have the CPEC Media Forum. We have many seminars. We have high-level agriculture fora as well. A lot is happening. But the way we can engage youth and focus on topics that are of interest to them, that can help them understand how they can be involved in a better way. I think this is something that still needs more work. And I guess platforms like yours can be very vital to educate people on how they're not recipients of the policy. They are stakeholders. They are the ones that are going to impact how the cooperation materializes. So this is something that I work on as well. And I think I have so many ideas, but this is in a nutshell, that's what it is. And obviously, as someone who's been here for so long, and I've worked very closely with Pakistani organizations and platforms as well, I feel that there really is a very strong sense of goodwill on both sides. My work with Chinese media as well is about, they're interested in Pakistan. They're pushing to learn more about Pakistan. They're trying to get even better coverage of Pakistani culture, history. My professors here are Chinese. They know so much more about Pakistan than many of my Pakistani professors know. They're really focused on understanding the region and the historical links. So we really have that basic structure, that environment in which our cultural cooperation can thrive. But I guess we just need more ways to cooperate. And I'm here, anyone who's interested in collaborating with Chinese stakeholders, whether you're talking about documentaries, you have any good programs that we can probably showcase to the Chinese audience, and vice versa. This is something that I'll be very happy to help with. And I think for now, that's all from my end. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful discussion. And I do think with more such conversations, we can look forward to a better understanding of not just China, Pakistan, but even of Pakistan. There's a lot of work we need to do to appreciate the heritage we have, the cultural diversity we have, and it will take a lot of people to make tangible gains on that front. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zoon, for your wonderful suggestions. And definitely, we need to embark upon certain initiatives for collaboration. And there are a possibility of learning from each other and strengthening each other, especially Pakistan also needs to strengthen such type of institutions. Please, you want to say something?
To add something, just very quickly, I need to add something. So the language came up. I think what we don't appreciate is that so many Chinese are better Urdu speakers than almost any Chinese-speaking Pakistani that I've met. Chinese have invested in Urdu a lot. A lot of universities are offering 4-year-long majors in Urdu. China Radio International, China Media Group in general, many media platforms in China are run by Chinese people in Urdu. So this is something that I think there doesn't seem to be so much understanding. What Ms. Khan, Mr. Hamdan talked about the mosques. It's great that you know that actually there are about 24,000 mosques in China, and the history of Muslims in China is something that's not as known as it should be. So these are topics that we should focus on, and we should also have more. I guess we should in Pakistan know these things, that actually they're also investing in the Urdu language, and the language is not a barrier, but just knowing another language can be beneficial. So we should have more awareness about really the ground realities of each other's cultural existence when we talk between China and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I think in Pakistan, we don't have the quality of Chinese studies that neighboring countries do. Afghanistan, India, even Bangladesh, Western countries, they're offering very good quality Chinese. Now we have some focus on language, but we don't have 4-year majors on Chinese language and history and politics. This is something many countries are focused on. So we still need to do more in terms of the quality of Chinese studies in Pakistan. And I think that's something I hope we can do over a period of a few years at least. Focus on the quality, not just the quantity. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Soon. Recently, after CPAC, there are a couple of study centers have been developed, but they are more sort of geopolitical. But we also need to develop the center of excellence that could be contributing to Chinese studies in Pakistan, and might be the HEC, federal or the provincial, they should be developing a policy of having such a type of a center of excellence at different universities if we really want to promote studies on China. Because Chinese civilization, culture, and overall their work habits and how they got out of the poverty, they are also need to be learned from. And of course, we need to understand China as a civilization, not merely a political reality in the region. Thank you, Soon. And now I've moved forward. Unfortunately, Dr. Masood Ghani, the district governor-elect, had to go, and I have requested him to come online again. He's traveling at the moment, but meanwhile, several times.
Can I just,
Saqib, just a minute. Let me finish first, please. Riham Saba, you want to speak something?
Gee, I just wanted to add to what Zoon was saying, because, this is for years, of course, because we've been raised in Suba Sarhad. And even in Punjab, I've been fascinated that there are professors of Urdu who are Chinese, but have been living in Pakistan for 20, 40 years, and the understanding that they have of Urdu adab, Urdu literature. So that's quite a shock to the system because you're not expecting it. And in terms of the Beijing Film Academy particularly, you see, this is brilliant that after 45 years we had Parvaz Hai Junoon, but it was mainly an Air Force sort of, it was an Air Force sort of topic. And so that's what I mean, that are people to people that, there are, of course, certain study centers in Islamabad where you can learn Chinese, but it shouldn't only be, as you said, geopolitical. I think there are people to people connection. And I think if you allow artists, filmmakers to produce content and you allow them the creativity, perhaps they can produce content which can compete with the American content or the Indian content that we love and lap up so much. So, I mean, this thing that I suggested, you mentioned the Center of Excellence, and these were my words, which I suggested to someone General Asim Bajwa, actually, back in 2013 when he was heading the ISPR. And I had this idea of how Zoon said, but much of my film content tends to be incorporate travel in it. Also, because that's my personality. As I said, since the age of 8, I've been a fascinated by. I read Confucius when I was 15, and the Ming dynasty has been a huge sort of again, I think it's because of the proximity. So if people got to see these mosques, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And it's not the only mosque, as Zoon was saying, but certainly I think that's what I would like to introduce. Physical journeys are almost also incorporating spiritual journeys. So, it's the way you produce content and the way you collaborate, which I think can be interesting or can be a little bit like those enforced waistcoat wale content. So that's my, I hope to connect with Zoon as well. This is wonderful that she's there, and she sounds like a pretty enthusiastic person.
Okay, Riyam Khan, thank you very much. Definitely, waistcoat culture से भी बाहर निकलना चाहिए, और definitely, Behral. I was talking about like Dr. Masood Ghani Sahab is not with us at the moment, and but fortunately we have Saqib Rahim, who is the former district governor of one of the three districts within Pakistan. He has raised his hand several times. Now I give mic to Saqib Rahim Saab, but with a question that I had to pose to Dr. Masood Ghani Saab is that Lions Club we see as an international social organization that promotes collaboration, that promotes working for the people on different tiers. Saqib Rahim Saab, would you please tell me how this Lion Club can contribute about educating on China within Pakistan, because only we know a couple of things about China within Pakistan, and China has I visited like 2-3 times China, and I know they love Pakistan, but being a friend, not as cultural identity. How do you think like Lions Club can promote the mechanisms of cultural collaboration, social integration, and engagement? Saqib Rahim Saab.
Thank you, Munir. You have put in me a huge question, but I'll try to answer.
A huge question, but in 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, I won't take much time, but you are very right. Lions Club International is is a international organization within 47,000 clubs in the world, and we do have a lot of clubs in China also, and we do collaborate in one way or the other, and we do collaborate with one way or the other from Chinese clubs in Pakistan also. Probably we can have a very good interaction with those clubs at some times, and we can increase that very interaction with the Chinese club, that is the Lions Club. So we'll be doing whatever we can. And but the question, the point I want to raise over here is, we have been discussing a lot of things about youth, culture, economy, and people-to-people contact from China and Pakistan. That is very good, and we have very strong insights of the people who are obviously very learned, and we do value their views. But the point I want to raise over here is, can this CPAC be a game changer within the culture in Pakistan also? Do you think that the deep rooted untrust we have within the provinces, or the provinces and the federal we have it, and by this linkage, what we have been dealing with, can we use this very CPAC for the nation building of our country? Can be a source? Can be a triggering point where we can bring our provinces, our people to people of Pakistan? Obviously, we are doing a lot of things, and we are doing a lot of activities in between China and Pakistan. But can we focus on our own people, because this can be one of the game changer within the Pakistan to bring the people closer. So that point I want to raise it. If anybody wants to comment on it.
Okay, okay, thank you very much, Saqib
Munir
Rahim
sahab,
sir.
let me, Munir
Ji
the question raised.
Hassan Daud Bhatt sahab, please go ahead.
And also suggest a few things at the end, because then perhaps my connectivity would be
Okay, okay. Please
you
go
see,
ahead.
First of all, we need to understand Chinese culture is the oldest living
Hassan Daud Bhatt sahab, your voice is quite muffled and I cannot hear you.
with known history. And it's 1,000 years ago.
Sir,
Can you hear me now?
I cannot hear you properly because your voice is quite muffled, Hassan Daud Bhatt sahab.
Can you hear me better now? Is it better now?
But please go ahead. Let's see if it works.
Okay. So my point is that it was said 5,000 years ago by Chinese that if you want to become rich, build roads. So जो आपने बात की of regional integration, that is extremely important. And now with building infrastructure and roads connectivity from less developed areas of Pakistan to urban centers, I think people would have the choices of going to better education, going to hospitals and schools, and perhaps the kind of regional integration that we much desire. I belong to Punjab and I work in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa now as part of their CEO as the Board of Investment. So this perhaps would help us in many ways if we continue to build and bring regional integration through roads and infrastructure. Last, my point is, and as I said, the connectivity issue is that only and only if you build a good business case around the cultural interaction, you would be able to promote it in China, and likewise Chinese would be able to promote. Because you have to, as Zoom said, and she's a good friend, it's the packaging which matters in China. Even if it's a small wooden comb that they're giving, the packaging that they do around that is worth the take. And if we can package our product, or मैंने शीमा किरमानी साहिबा से पहले भी इस बात में बात की थी, that whatever toupee that you take, it cannot be the waistcoat style toupees that you take. You need to give it better graphics, you need to give it better music, and then only you will be able to sell it well. I have lived in China for 5 years and I know how fond are they of Indian dance and culture. Indian movies, Shah Rukh Khan is followed there as well. So I think we need to package our products well. We need to have our, it tailored around Silk Road. And I mentioned in my introductory speech also, why is it Silk Road important? Because at that time, Landi, Kotal and Peshawar was hub of all trade activities. So if and I'm saying this, and I have given when I go to China and sell our products in China, I always say that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is a place where history meets hospitality. So we need to have right, and I always said this to my colleagues and also to Ma'am Nagmana, she was the ambassador then, that perhaps Pravaz Hai Janoon was not the right kind of movie that we should have taken after so long. We should have taken a better culturally diverse movie to China to showcase what diversity we have.
Okay.
Chinese are interested, they're keen, but only अगर आपके टूरिस्ट रिजॉर्ट्स में इंटरनेट सर्विसेज नहीं होंगी, आपकी मूवीज के अंदर म्यूजिक और उनकी डिजिटाइजेशन करेक्ट नहीं होगी, दे विल नॉट बी इंटरेस्टेड. आप कुछ भी कर लें जितना हायर देन माउंटेन्स या डीपर देन सी ले जाएं.
Okay, thank you very much, Hassan Daud Bhatt Saab. Zoon, you want to say something?
Can I just add a half minute? half minute only, because I agree so much with Hassan Saab. The problem is, we celebrate MOU, Taliyan. Matlab, when it comes to the cultural industry, movies, that MOU is only an opening. It's an opening to, it's an opportunity. And if we don't cash on it, we don't even realize, like Hassan Saab said, they package from products to their culture extremely well. The Chinese viewer is very sophisticated. So that movie, Parvaz-e-Junoon, the selling point of it was probably the beautiful sceneries. But in terms of the quality, the way it was made, if we want to sell, if this had to be our opportunity to show a Chinese audience that you should, like, out of all of these options that you have, this is the kind of movie that you want to watch. You can spend those 3 hours in the cinema and choose this over other films. I think it definitely did not make that cut. And this is something in Pakistan we need to increasingly realize, how much the Chinese consumer has evolved. So MOUs, that political will, all of it is an opportunity which needs to be reaped by the business sector, by cultural sectors. It's not what defines the magnitude of the cooperation in the long run. So that's it. Kudos to that.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, we only believe in MOUs, and there is nothing afterwards, like very concrete and very like solid and something that could sell in the market, basically.
Munir Saab, I would just like to add something to this.
Reham, Dr. Masood Ghani Saab is with us, and I can take your point of view before going to Samra Khalid and Siptan Raza Lodi, those who have raised their hands. And because Masood Ghani Saab is traveling, and I asked him to come online for a couple of minutes, and then soon I will become Reham Khan Saab, then I will come into you again.
That's perfectly fine, Ji.
Okay. Dr. Masood Ghani Saab is the district governor-elect 305 and 2, and he has been a very vibrant in organizing different kind of initiatives over the years. Now he is, will be taking over one of the 3 districts of Pakistan, and the largest district in Pakistan, having like I don't know, maybe 100 plus clubs. And Dr. Masood Ghani Saab, my question is that Lions Club is an international organization with regional chapters as well. What do you think, like that the social engagement and cultural engagement regime that we are looking within the CPAC, how Lions Club having such kind of huge network can contribute to strengthen and engage people from both sides? Dr. Masood Ghani Saab, please go ahead. Dr. Masood Ghani Saab. Dr. Masood Ghani Saab. Dr. Masood Ghani Saab, your audio is not connected. Dr. Masood Ghani's audio is not connected. Before moving to Masood Ghani Saab, I would request Reham Khan Saab, please go ahead, the point you want to make.
Ji, I just wanted to add to what Zoon was saying also, and the gentleman before her as well, that this is the problem. One of the biggest problems, if we were to go into detail and zoom in to the issue basically is that when these MOUs are signed, and the people who sign them, I cannot stress this enough, that there are areas that suit artists and creative content people, and they should be left alone to do that. This is, when she talks about a discerning viewer in China, I mean, they have Beijing Film Academy, they have the Oscar winner, the first woman of color, the first woman who's non-white to win an Oscar this year is Chinese origin. So we need to understand the reason I didn't want to sort of say about Parvaz-e-Junoon is it to me it's obvious, you're focusing on aircrafts that are not Chinese made, so it's logical not to be able, it's not even politically correct to do that in China. I mean, the only saleability I could think was the fact that Hania who we introduced in Janan, was a good sort of, I think she would have had a little bit of a fan mail in Chinese circles, because she's got those features. Of course, she's also from our region, and but other than that, I couldn't understand why that would be something that Chinese audience would want to relate to or aspire to. So I think that in that context, it was, we have to understand that there is, what else could I say? I mean, it's a case of networking. When I talked about the film lobby being in Karachi, the other lobby, we know where it is, and I have no problem with them giving logistics and support. But you see, it gives, it's nepotism, so you don't have the best talent. B, there is control. So there's things that I might want to do that I can make Shafat do. But, in Parvaz-e-Junoon, I found his character limited. So this is why we need artists and writers to have creative freedom to produce artworks or fabulous film ideas. And why with the gentleman, I forget the name because I wasn't looking, the gentleman before Azun was saying is on point, that we have to explore with enthusiasm, and we don't have to force sort of the narrative down people's throats. I've said this previously also, and I can't say it enough, that whether you watch Schindler's List or you watch Friends, the underlying narrative or the direction will always be the same. And that is, but you will not notice it because it will be presented in a subliminal fashion. It will be presented in a fashion which doesn't feel forced. It's beautiful production. It is gentle. And there are many ways of making beautiful film content where you can show the food, you can show exotic cultures, you can show the fact that people connect, but it has to be done when you allow creative people in. And this nepotism around the MOUs has to break, because there are certain people who might not be connected to the lobby. Just because they are connected to the lobby doesn't mean that they are creative geniuses. They may well be, but I think we have to open the doors for other people. And so I think these are two very valid points that both the speakers made.
Okay, thank you, Reham Khan, for your wonderful addition to your initial talk. And but before I would go to Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab for concluding remarks, I have to chip in two more participants' comments or questions. And as you mentioned about nepotism, I have seen nepotism at PNCA when there was collaboration or like a joint initiative over there. The nepotism prevailed, and finally the initiative that was very important and pertinent for China-Pakistan cultural collaboration could not be extended because of the failure to prove its worth. And that is another story, but I would request Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab, who is also part of the board of governors at the moment with PNCA, definitely as an individual and as being member of the PNCA board of governors, should reflect the priority of Pak-China cultural collaboration and social engagement when he would be offering concluding remarks. Now, Samra Khalid, please unmute your mic and offer your question or comment, whatever you have. Samra Khalid, please go ahead.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum ji. I am Samra Khalid. Not that much a cultural kind of a person, but I am associate professor at Bahia University teaching economics. So basically, I'm more interested in the CPAC route because the next generation, whom I'm teaching, they are still confused. They are taking the CPAC as the East India Company, and after delivering and giving the presentations to me on the CPAC, in the end, when the conclusions are to be made, they are confused. They don't know whether the CPAC is going to be beneficial for Pakistan or not. They are confused about the employment levels to be given in Pakistan. What about the micro and as well as macro level? What's going on? We don't have any stronger data regarding the CPAC. We know the outside story, but the next generation wants to know the inside story as well, because data is not available and which misguides the students whether the China and the CPAC is in favor of Pakistan or not. And the distribution of income, the distribution of employment, is it on the equal basis, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, or even 90-10? So until and unless our next generation is comfortable, they are not going to adapt the language, culture, and other Chinese cultural, historical things, because the same thing going on in their minds, like in East India Company was there. Students are really confused. So I want the people of China and Pakistan in the government to please come up with the clear data.
Okay.
Until and unless the students have the data, we are not going to have a good cultural relationship between the two countries. Next.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, because we are proceeding towards the end of the webinar, but सब जरा 2 मिनट ठहर जाइए. एक दो चीजें हैं, एक दो और participants हैं, they want to contribute, and afterwards I can come to you as well for your concluding remarks. And now I request Zahur Sahab. Zahur Sahab, zara a brief comment for, please.
Yes, sir. Very briefly, I would touch upon a few things. Number one, there are more than 30,000 students, Pakistanis, which are stranded in Pakistan because of COVID from China. This is not the irony. COVID hai, nahi ja sake. The thing is, their universities, they are not reaching out to them properly. So this, हम 10-15 लोग यहाँ बैठ के जो मर्जी कर लें, it is not going to be beneficial. Then another thing, we are not having a free run as far as this cultural homogeneity which we are trying to generate. There are forces, आपने देखा जैसे CPAC शुरू हुआ, there were forces which were trying to give a negative impression of the CPAC. So we shall know whatever we are doing in the presence of friction. Then the absence of news items, आपने देखा जब Hong Kong का problem हुआ, so everyone was showing the news which were given to them by BBC and CNN, which was absolute pro-West and biased. So we need to have our news channel, we need to have a biased opinion, not a biased opinion, an unbiased opinion of the Chinese issues and things, so that we can have a fair idea. So this is shortly, I thought, time.
Okay.
So nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Is there time for Manisha? I'm so
टाइम
sorry.
बार तो कोई नहीं है, टाइम बार कोई नहीं है. Zoom खुला हुआ है. वो कहते हैं कि वो क्या कहते हैं, मैं खाना Zoom.
We don't even.
Zoom.
I'm so sorry. I don't
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Zoom.
I just want to add something. We don't invest in our own journalism. Pakistan covers the world mostly based on, we pick up reports from Western media most of all, and we don't have our own. I mean, even what the professor, I don't remember the name, was talking about, the kind of language we use, the kind of ideas we internalize. I mean, they're copy-paste from a narrative that we've constantly been trying to fight. So one of the ways we can do better coverage of China-related issues is also by having our own journalists in China, which we don't have. So that's something we really need to do.
You are right. Even we are not investing in journalism. We are not investing anywhere in the human resource to get some excellent output as required for the nation and the country. Septar Razar Loji sir, please go ahead for like in 1 or 2 minutes. Oh, sorry. I think we also had Masood Ghani Saab. Masood Ghani Saab, आप हैं या चले गए?
जी मैं हूँ.
शुक्र है आपके. अब वेरी गुड. सिप्तान साहब आप जरा रुक जाएं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट गवर्नर को पहले बोल लेने दें, ठीक है? Please, Dr. Masood Ghani Saab, as I have introduced him a couple of times, he's here and he knows the question that I have to pose him. सर सवाल तो पता है ना सर आपको how Lions Club could contribute to spreading knowledge and awareness about Chinese culture and engaging people, local people, different from different districts, जो हमारे अपने district हैं, and how Lions Club can contribute into enhancing cultural and social ties with China and in the region. Dr. Masood Ghani Saab.
Thank you very much, Munir Saab. As you know, I'm not as intellectual to speak on Pakistan, China, cultural, and all these social cooperation. As my learned colleagues and friends on board, Shima ji and Reham Khan Saab has talked much about it. So as being a lion, my very senior lion, my past district governor is also sitting on board, Saqib Rahim Saab. I think he is more capable to talk on it. So as being a doctor and a public health specialist, I can give you a brief about what Pakistan, China are doing on cooperation, on in health field, on medical ground. So you know, in this pandemic condition, initially China helped us in maintaining hospitals, improving the medical facilities with equipments, with medicines, and with a lot of protecting material. They sent to Pakistan, and we distributed throughout Pakistan. So after that, in second phase, they started preparation of vaccination, and Pakistan and China both were in cooperation and were in collaboration, and we provided a vast field to test this vaccine when they were in preparation condition. And finally, this vaccine was prepared. We thought, or internationally, initially it was a very safe, they called it a very safe vaccination. Perhaps some countries, European countries, as well as Saudi Arab has now put ban on it, and they ask with Australian and some British vaccine, you can have this and come to Saudi Arabia. But I think this Russian vaccine is very safe, and we all are having it. And China has contributed a lot in distribution of vaccination, and they have donated millions of doses to Pakistan, and millions are in pipeline coming to Pakistan. And in this, I can only elaborate on this this cooperation, what Pakistan and China are doing. Otherwise, Pakistan and China are very old friends. They are doing cooperation in every field. Many people, one of my colleague, my line colleague, Sumra has already talked about the CPAC. So what we are thinking about, it's beneficial for Pakistan, or we are going for another old story. So all these things are in front of you. I think time is also running short, and this is all over from me.
Thank you very much. We have already passed half an hour of the scheduled time. Septan Sahab, if you really have something very, to make a question or what, like, please go ahead. Please be brief, because we have to conclude with the concluding remarks of Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Sahab. Sorry, I can't hear you. Unmute your mic.
मसूद गनी साहब बेल्ट लगा लें।
मसूद गनी साहब, आप जरा बेल्ट लगा लें, आपकी टू टू बहुत हो रही है, लेकिन मैंने आपको ये मैंने म्यूट कर दिया आपको। बहरहाल चलें। ओके,
बहुत शुक्रिया। सबसे पहले बात तो यह, मुनीर साहब, आपकी एफर्ट्स को सलाम। आप एक बहुत अरसे से मुल्क की कौमी खिदमत सर अंजाम दे रहे हैं। बुनियादी बात मेरे मुल्क की ज़बान है, कल्चर के हवाले से उर्दू, मैं उर्दू में बात करना मुनासिब समझूंगा। अगर चीन ने तरक्की किया तो अपनी ज़बान और अपनी सकाफत और अपने कल्चर की बुनियाद पर। आज अगर हम दुनिया के कल्चर को स्टडी करें, 65 की दहाई में पाक चीन दोस्ती छपता था, वो एक कल्चरल डिप्लोमेसी थी। उस वक्त तक लिटरेचर मेयार, ना आपके पास टेक्नोलॉजी थी, वही एक मैगजीन था जो हमारे पाकिस्तान के अंदर नौजवान नस्ल तक कीन बा तस्वीर रिसाला भी पहुंचा था। और पाक चीन दोस्ती हिमालय की चोटियों तक के ये नारे हम तक पहुंचे। सर, इंटरेस्ट इज द परमानेंट। दोस्तों में इक्तसादियात का जमाना है, हम पाकिस्तान एक कंज्यूमर मार्केट है। पाक चीन दोस्ती के हवाले से हम इस खित्ते के अंदर एक उनकी कंज्यूमर जरूरियात के हवाले से हैं। सी पैक के मंसूबे हों, जब पूरी सी पैक की इंपोर्ट हो एक्सपोर्ट हो, ये अमदाद तो अमेरिका ने 1948 से भी हमें अपने इत्तेहादी बना के पूरे मुल्क पे रखी। उस वक्त पाक अमेरिकन सेंटर्स बने पूरे पाकिस्तान, लाहौर में, कराची में, इस्लामाबाद में। नेफ्लेक्ट सैनमा के साथ अमेरिकन सेंटर होता था, आज वो किधर गया? और आज खाना फरंग ईरान कल्चरल सेंटर के नाम पे ये बने, और टर्की के डेलीगेशंस आते थे। हमारी डिप्लोमेसी के मेयारात बदलते रहते हैं। हमारा रिच कल्चर है, और टूरिज्म के कॉन्सेप्ट में आई एम प्रैक्टिकल पर्सन, यू नो बेटर, कि हमने इंडिया में भी पीस एंड कल्चर ट्रिप किया। मैडम रेहान खान हमारे लॉन्च क्लब, इस्लामाबाद पीस एंड लॉन्च क्लब के प्रोग्राम में अली मेहदी के साथ रही, तब भी हमारे इश्यूज वही थे कि जो पब्लिक की वॉइस है उसको कभी भी किसी ने एड्रेस नहीं किया। वो चाहे पार्लियामेंट का फोरम हो, सिविल सोसाइटी के फोरम पे जितनी डिमांड्स रखी जाती हैं, वो किताबी बातें तो जरूर बनती हैं। अभी प्रोफेसर जहूर साहब भी इशारा दे रहे थे कि 20 बंदों की बात जरूर पहुंचती है, लेकिन थिंक टैंक बनने के लिए ये फोरम इंतहाई जरूरी है। आज आपसे मेरी डिबेट हुई थी एक प्राइवेट महफिल में कि सिविल सोसाइटी नेटवर्क पाक चाइना फ्रेंडशिप की इस्टेब्लिश की जरूरत है। आप इस फोरम के जरूरत पे आप बुलाएंगे। हमारे 600 सीबीओज, एनजीओज लेवल के, ग्रास लेवल की ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं। अलमिया यह है कि पाकिस्तान में किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन को पनपने नहीं देते। हमारे एनजीओज के साथ क्या असर हो रहा है, सीबीओज के साथ क्या हो रहा है, ग्रास लेवल पे उन इदारों के साथ क्या हो रहा है, ये एक सेपरेट स्टोरी है। रोना नहीं रोया जा सकता, लेकिन अपने हिस्से की क्षमा फरोजा करें। हमने जनाब ईरान तक टूर लेके गए, तुर्कमानिस्तान लेके गए कल्चर ग्रुप के तौर पे। लोग आपको वेलकम करने के लिए बेचैन है, आपके साथ कल्चरल दोस्ती और फ्रेंडशिप जोड़ने के लिए तैयार है। आप कल्चरल फ्रेंडशिप के जरिए पीस प्रोसेस को दुनिया के अंदर पाकिस्तान का वो गोल्डन सॉफ्ट इमेज बना सकते हैं जिसकी जरूरत है। लेकिन ये भी तो सोचें, मुझे पाक चीन दोस्ती का ग्रुप बनाना हो तो मुझे तो वहां से ट्रेड का वीजा मिल रहा है, टूरिज्म का वीजा है, या उधर आपके लिए 40-50 हजार की कॉस्ट करे, तो मेरी यूथ के पास कितने पैसे हैं? हकीकतों को, लोगों को ग्लोबल सतह के इकोनॉमी पैकेज की रोशनी में रखें। लो कॉस्ट टूरिज्म होती थी यूथ हॉस्टल्स की, 40 रुपए में बच्चा चलता था। आज वो यूथ हॉस्टल 2,500 रुपए में पहुंच गया है, पूरी दुनिया का इंटरनेशनल। हम इंडिया में आपके साथ जाके, मुनीर साहब आप ही थे, ठहरे थे जब डॉक्टर फरदौस साहब थी। बुनियादी चीजों के वो तजर्बे, वो मुशाहिदात, वो सारी रखें। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह इस वक्त तक हमारा क्लब, मेरी जात, पाकिस्तान के चारों कोनों में, हमने लास्ट टाइम खंजराब तक ग्रुप लेके गए।
ठीक है सिप्तान साहब, आपकी बात पहुंच गई। असल में काफी देर हो गई है, अब इसको कंक्लूड करना। आपके जो क्रक्स है ना, अब बात
आखिरी बात, आप सजेशंस की सूरत में, आप तजावीज की सूरत में उन रियलिटी इश्यूज के साथ उन कंसर्न अथॉरिटीज को डायलॉग प्रोसेस में लाएं। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अच्छे लोग होते हैं, आपकी उन रिकमेंडेशंस पर कोई रिप्लाई करने वाली अथॉरिटी भी हो। सी पैक ने अगर प्लान दिया ना, उसके अंदर पाकिस्तान की टूरिज्म डाइवर्सिटी के हवाले से या उसकी प्रमोशन के हवाले से रिलीफ दे पाकिस्तानी शहरियों को, फिर देखें मेरे नौजवानों को आगे बढ़ता और अपने हिस्से की क्षमा फरोजा करता और पाकिस्तान के सॉफ्ट इमेज को प्रमोट करता देखें। बहुत शुक्रिया।
मेहरबानी मेहरबानी। हम वक्त बहुत ज़्यादा ले चुके हैं। शायद महमूद नदीम साहब, प्लीज़ आपने यू हैव listened to different point of views, how you would like to conclude it, and also please add my question that as board member of PNCA, how this could be taken forward, because earlier we have seen that whoever has the opportunity and it is used for their own friends if they are capable or not capable. And the same kind is a situation we have seen everywhere, not only one PNCA, everywhere. Perhaps that is why the cultural initiatives have not been promoted to that mark that we were interested in. Please go ahead, Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab. Unmute your mic, please. Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab, आपका mic, please unmute your mic. Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab. Yes, thank you.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, I can.
I was saying that it was really a fascinating and very insightful discussion, and some very valuable contributions were made. So in that way, I will congratulate you and all the participants. I think most of the issues have been raised. Basically, like firstly, it has to be an even-based and respectful of each other's identity and each other's culture. That kind of a relationship. It should not be a one-sided relationship. That is obviously agreed. And also that culture is the basis on which friendship and lasting relationships can be made. Now, there are just one or two things which I think need to be highlighted. Firstly, which has recently been mentioned in today's session, is that the role of the bureaucracy or the government in facilitating or enabling the civil society organizations or people-centric organizations or cultural and artistic organizations to interact with their Chinese counterparts and either learn from each other or work on common projects, collaborations, and also have access to each other's market or each other's audience. So I think that is very important, because the Chinese they have their own bureaucratic or a system which they follow, but at least they have a vision and they have a direction. When it comes to our own bureaucracy, then I think there is lack of interest in some cases, or too much of personal interest in other cases, which then makes it difficult for the genuine practitioners and stakeholders from the cultural sector in Pakistan to have meaningful interaction with their Chinese counterparts. So I think that is something which has to be worked out with some people who have more influence, like yourself or Mushahid Saab or Nagmana Saiba, that they can somehow facilitate and make, especially our authorities and the Chinese representatives in Islamabad, realize that people to people or artist to artist or cultural interaction can only take place with the genuine stakeholders and not through a bureaucratic process where then the priorities change and the personal priorities come in, as it happened in the case of PNCA. And I assure you that I will take this matter up with the PNCA and raise it in the Board of Governors meeting also, to make it more transparent and more genuine based relationship. But one other thing which I think we need to realize, that when it comes to market-based initiatives, like most business initiatives or initiatives relating to tourism, and then coming to the cultural side, initiatives relating to film. If it is if we are being given access to Chinese film market, it can never work, because our film industry is non-existent or very weak and all dependent on Bollywood and Hollywood. And if Bollywood disappears or Hollywood is unable, then our cinemas close and our industry kind of falls to the ground. So I think when we can't have, and Chinese market is of course huge, and they talk of millions and billions of dollars when it comes to accessibility and relationship. So there you can only work with common projects, collaborations between Pakistani filmmakers, Pakistani television producers, and their Chinese counterparts. I remember that in the days of PTV monopoly, there was some very interesting collaborations and which had a lasting impact, and people still in PTV at least they talk about those experiences. And then we should also, when it comes to viable and effective in the short run collaborations, it can be firstly university to university, or cultural organization to cultural organization, or workshops, training workshops, technical workshops, puppet making, or infrastructure making, or technologies, the social media and digital media in which Chinese have excelled and which is in great demand in Pakistan. These are the areas where the technical expertise from Chinese can be very helpful for the Pakistani emerging digital or game designing or animation or the film production market. And secondly, there should be, it should not be like one-off initiative. There should be a program of cultural interaction, which should have festivals, workshops, training, visits, exchange, everything, but as a part of the 3-year or more program. And there should be people who are looking at the big picture on both sides, so that you can see and monitor the impact of these initiatives. Right now, if you invite 50 artists from Pakistan, firstly, we know how they are selected, at least most of them. And some of them have absolutely no interest. They go and have a good time and come back. And there is no feedback, no kind of utilization of the opportunity which they had been given. So it should be like something which should be fair, and it should be the civil society organizations and the practitioners and the stakeholders who should be in the driving seat. So I think to conclude, I would say that we should now focus on the, as you said in the beginning, mechanism, how it should develop. Should there be like an overall friendship, cultural relationship committee in which some representatives from the governments can be invited, but mostly it should be the stakeholders, the peers, the practitioners. And then they should have sectoral committees or platforms where you can focus on film, focus on theater, focus on music, and then develop programs and then have them approved and implemented through public-private partnership. So effective and organized measures have been should be taken, and I would suggest that you, taking from this meeting, you come up with some such proposals, and then maybe let us have our comments circulated to the participants today, and then have a proposal and then follow it up with the authorities concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab, for a wonderful conclusion. Definitely, we have discussed multi-tier engagement plans and how we should go about it. And I should not have my remarks afterwards, because we are already very late to conclude it, and it's very thoughtful and very exhaustive discussion that we had. And at the end, I would like to thank you, Shahid Mahmood Nadeem sir, for being with us once again. Thank you very much, Shima Kirmani Sahiba, Riham Khan Sahiba, Zoon Ahmed Khan from Beijing, and the Hassan Daud Bhatt Saab. Thank you so much.
So, Munir sir, मुझे एक छोटा सा point देना है.
जी please,
using this platform,
जी Bhatt Saab, please go
using
ahead.
this platform, I would say कि अगर किसी के पास भी कोई product है, product in sense of cultural product, जो कि I am representing the government here, क्योंकि ये नहीं हुआ कि government के पास कोई भी approach आई हो, कोई भी प्रोडक्ट आया हो, कोई भी कॉन्सेप्ट, मैं जब बीजिंग में था एज अ डिप्लोमेट, तो हमारे पास मुमना दुरैद ने अप्रोच किया एंड हम टीवी को हमने कहा, एंड देन लेटर 2 of the private Chinese channels were showing Pakistani dramas dubbed in Chinese. तो ये कहना कि पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप नहीं होती, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट पिछले सेमिनार में भी थी, इस दफा भी है, और पीएनसीए ने मेरे साथ बहुत अच्छा काम किया व्हेन आई वाज प्रोजेक्ट डायरेक्टर सीपैक। हमने पूरा वेस्टर्न कॉरिडोर में एक ट्रूपे लेकर गए थे, यू नो, चाइनीज एंड पाकिस्तानी का फ्यूजन करके, और वेस्टर्न कॉरिडोर्स की तमाम मेजर सिटीज को हमने टच किया एंड वहां पर फंक्शंस किए थे, विच वेंट वेरी वेल। जमाल शाह साहब सपोर्टेड अस वेल। तो मेरी यहाँ पे गुजारिश होगी कि आपके पास अगर शीमा किरमानी साहबा के पास, पीएनसीए के पास, या किसी के पास भी कोई कॉन्सेप्ट है, और आजकल तो चूंकि वेबिनार्स हो रहे हैं तो कनेक्टिंग विद चाइनीज इज वेरी इजी, तो मैं आपको उसमें भी हेल्प कर दूंगा। आई एम अवेलेबल। लास्टली पॉइंट कि वो जो आपके बीच में आपकी फीमेल पार्टिसिपेंट थी, उन्होंने कहा था कि यू नो, जब इस वक्त पाकिस्तानी 70% एम्प्लॉइज है सीपैक प्रोजेक्ट्स में, और फ्रॉम समबडी फ्रॉम बहरिया को तो बिल्कुल सवाल नहीं करना चाहिए, because President Beria Alumni was the first project director of CPAC. तो इनके पास डेटा सबसे अच्छा होना चाहिए. So with this, my office, myself, for connecting Zoom और मैं both we are available. कोई भी आपका product हो, कोई भी आपका concept हो, please guys, connecting Chinese is not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Great. आपके ईमेल एड्रेस वगैरह मुनीर साहब से मिल जाएंगे?
सर सब कुछ मिल जाएगा शायद साहब।
सब मुनीर साहब के पास हर चीज अवेलेबल है, हर चीज अवेलेबल है।
Okay. With this generous offer from Hassan Daud Bhatt Saab, who was the CPAC project director and diplomat in Beijing, thank you so much. I have to thank Dr. Masood Ghani Saab as well, and Samra Khalid, and Rafatara, Dr. Ifram Satti, who left. I don't know. There were several others like who has already left. And thank you very much. See you next Saturday with another vibrant and webinar on for your discussion and brainstorming and learning. Thank you so much once again.